I'm going to talk today about a few things, mainly related to Kogan, the business. So how many people in here have heard of Kogan? All right, nearly everyone, that's good. And how many have made a purchase from Kogan? Only about 50% of hands up. You guys are going to get a marketing manager fired. So for those that don't know too much about Kogan, it started in 2006 and it's grown to be Australia's largest online retailer. We're a consumer electronics brand direct to the public, so we sell direct online, and we manufacture our own LCD TVs and LED TVs and Blu-ray players and a whole heap of electronic products, and we now also sell the world's biggest brands at the world's best prices. The business started with $0 startup capital and has now grown to, we'll do over $250 million revenue this year, so becoming Australia's largest online retailer, and expanded to about 14 other countries as well. So, thanks. So it's been quite an interesting ride. Now I'm going to tell you about the beginnings of Kogan, the first few months, how everything started, and then I'll go on to discuss, a lot of the business lessons learned along the way. One of the first things is, the whole concept of entrepreneur and what is an entrepreneur. To me, an entrepreneur comes in two parts. It's an inventor and an athlete in one. So you're an inventor in the sense that you have to look at the business environment, you have to look at the marketplace, and you have to say, what can I do differently to what's been done at the moment? What can I change? What innovation can I bring here? Whether it be a product or a service that helps people do things more efficiently, you have to innovate and create something new. The second part of it, the athlete, is basically just working your ass off till you make it happen. A lot of people have the misconception that, I'm going to get into business, I'm going to be an entrepreneur because I'm sick and tired of being in the corporate world and working 40-hour weeks. That's a massive mistake. I've been in the corporate world and that's when I did the least amount of work ever. Right now, a 60, 70, 80, 90-hour week is not uncommon. In the corporate world, I also used to report to one person. Now I report to 82 million customers around the world. So, it changes a lot of things. And I think the athlete bit is really important when defining an entrepreneur, because it really is a hard slog and working your ass off and determination to make it happen. I live in the same building as Leighton Hewitt. And whenever I go to gym, which hasn't been lately, I see him in there all the time, and so I'd be there in the morning, and he's there going nuts, and then I'd go upstairs, and I'd take my laptop, go to a cafe nearby, have a few ciggies, coffees, breakfast, come back home, walk past the gym, he's still in the gym. Then I do a few emails from home, and then I'm walking out of the building. Leighton Hewitt's still there going nuts. I come home from work, he's still there. I have no idea if he stayed there the whole day or not, but he doesn't work out like all of us would work out. The guy is an absolute machine. And then it made me realize, all the people in the media all the time that say, oh, sportsmen, they're so overpaid. What do? They just, play footy, or they just play soccer, or they just play tennis. Seeing this guy work out made me realize that per calorie expended, sportsmen are probably the lowest paid people in the world. So, that's got a bit to do with entrepreneurship, because there is a lot of hard work to get there. Now, in terms of starting Kogan, it started in 2006. So when I used to tell this story, I'd tell everyone, yeah, Kogan started in 2006, and, that's when the business started, until I realized that it had started much earlier than that. I was at an Entrepreneur of the Year Awards, and, it was like one of those gala dinner things, and lots of tables and dinner, and these cards at each table that had all the finalists for Entrepreneur of the Year. And I looked at the list of finalists, and all of them were Russian. And at that stage, I thought, shit, I haven't paid off any of the judges. I'm no chance at winning this thing. And then I somehow fluke ended up winning it and got up on stage, and the MC, congratulated me and blah, 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 all of that crap. And then I pointed out to him that, it's weird that every single finalist was an immigrant, or even more specific, had a Russian name. And he goes to me, why do you think that is? And I had no idea. I cracked the joke. I'm like, I don't know, maybe vodka's got something to do with it. And then the MC went on to ask me questions about the business, and he goes to me, are your parents in business? Did they teach you your business skills? And I go to him, hell no, my parents didn't teach me anything, anything business related. So that happened, and I explained to him that, we've come from communist Russia. We immigrated here in 1989, and I tell him that my parents don't have the faintest idea about business. Like, my mum we live in Elsternwick, there's a Coles supermarket at the top of our street. My mum will drive to Dandenong to buy fruit and veg. And I'll say, why are you doing that? And she'll go, well, it's cheaper at Dandenong Market. And I'll try and explain opportunity cost to her and say that, it takes you an hour to get there. And, you could have spent that time working and the petrol, and, once you work out the price, it's much cheaper for you to go up the top of the street to Coles and buy fruit and veg. But she wouldn't get it. They don't understand, coming from a communist country, simple economic principles like that, because there is no economics in communism. So she'd also do stuff like she'd come home from a sale and go, oh, look, I bought this skirt, I saved $150. It was $200 and I got it for $50. And I'd be like, well, did you save $150 or did you waste $50? And she was like, no, I saved $150 because it was $200. And I said, Mum, do you think if anyone was buying this skirt for $200, they'd discount it to $50? The price is something is the level at which a transaction occurs. So the price of that skirt isn't $200 because no one was buying it at $200. So little things like this. So I'd tell them, no, my parents didn't teach me any business skills. So at these awards, I got off the stage and an elderly gentleman came up to me and he goes, Ruslan, you got all your business skills from your parents. And I was like, really? How? And he goes to me, think about what it takes to be an immigrant. You have to drop everything you've got, take a massive risk, travel into the unknown, work your ass off for a potential benefit that might not even be there. And I thought, shit, yeah, it's what I grew up watching my parents do. I watched them work 3 jobs each. My dad would go from delivering pizzas to being a taxi driver to being a cleaner. My mum would go from being a waitress at one cafe to another, come home, study English, raise kids at the same time. So, I saw my parents put in the hard yards and work their ass off in order to give us an opportunity in this country. And at that point, I realized, well, hell yeah, I got my work ethic, my determination, and all of that from my parents. So they taught me some of the most important business skills there are to learn. So now when I tell the Kogan startup story, it all started in 1989 when my parents fled Russia and came here. So fast forward a few years from 1989, and we're in 2003. So I was studying at Monash Uni. I was on a scholarship doing business systems, which is like, I call it a Bachelor of BS, it is a Bachelor of BS, business systems. And you learn bugger all about lots of things, but they claim that it's a half IT, half business degree. So I was studying that, and I got to do a semester abroad. And I was in my final semester and convinced my course director to exchange real proper subjects for subjects at the University of Miami. And they were like golf, scuba diving, tennis, and can't remember the fourth one, but I got credits for doing those subjects. So I thought, sweet, go to Miami for a semester, should be awesome. So set off to Miami, arrive in Miami, and there were quite a few international students. And in America, you live in dorms on campus and all of that sort of stuff. So all the international kids get together, and we're like, all right, in order to make this a successful semester, we're going to need a mini bar fridge for our dorm rooms. And everything we learnt at uni pointed us to Walmart. We were, all right, we've got to go to Walmart. They have economies of scale, the latest and greatest, best marketing, cheapest prices and all of that. So we're going to go to Walmart and buy a mini bar fridge. So a group of us gathered together, and we caught a train and a bus, got to a Walmart, found the mini bar fridges, bought them, then schlepped them back to our dorm rooms, train and bus and all of that. It was a full day excursion, and at least by the end of the day we had a hard-earned thirst and somewhere to keep our beer cold. So, we were happy, mission accomplished. Then the next day we see all the American kids, and they've just got FedEx drivers wheeling bar fridges up to their dorm room. And we looked at that and I was like, fuck, that would have been so much easier. And then we have a chat to the American kids, and they're like, not only did they get to spend the whole of the previous day chilling by the pool, swimming, working on their suntan, they also paid half the price that we did. And at that point I realized, well, a small online retailer can operate with far greater efficiency than a Goliath like Walmart. So I kept that thought in the back of my head and went on with a semester of studying at the University of Miami, and completed the semester, then went and did a bit of travels here and there, got back to Australia, and I had a few job offers. So my degree was completed at this stage. One of the job offers was at GE, and I'd worked there previously as a student, and I had a pretty unique skill set of CCIE, which is, for those that don't know, Cisco Certified Internetworking Engineer, which means I can set up computer networks and stuff and make them set up computer networks. And there were only a few people in the country at the time that could do this stuff. So as a 21-year-old, I was working at GE on 150K a year. So I thought, sweet. Working. A few months later, it gets boring because I know the stuff back to front, and it's the same challenges day in, day out, nothing too exciting. So I start getting bored, and then Accenture starts trying to poach me. And they're sending me all these brochures. Are there people in the room who work for Accenture? No one? Sweet. Oh. All right, fair enough. Only not as many as have heard about Kogan, so that's all right. So Accenture starts sending these brochures through of people in parks working on laptops, and I was like, shit, yeah, that's exactly what I want to be doing. I want to be one of these consultants working in a park on a laptop. This looks awesome. So I start thinking about quitting my job at GE, and I speak to a few people, friends, family. Everyone tells me I'm crazy because Accenture was, I think, 40 or 45K a year, and people are like, are you going to go from an 150K a year job to a 45K a year job? And I was like, yeah, but I'm so bored at GE. And everyone was like, you're crazy. But this picture of someone working in a park on a laptop was really getting to me, and I really wanted to do that. And they were saying, you get to work on different projects every month, and all these exciting companies and cool logos on their website. And Tiger Woods was there back when everyone was happy to promote Tiger Woods. So yeah, eventually Accenture got to me, and I quit GE and I went to work at Accenture. And that was the worst time of my life. Accenture is like the McDonald's for smart people. So, they'll they'll preach all this stuff like innovation and all of that, but there's a process for how to do absolutely everything in the organization. So, you know, they'll say, oh, you get to work in this innovative workplace, but, you know, now we're following process 1.5B on this document and all that. Like, literally a process for everything. There was posters in the bathrooms telling you how to wipe your ass. Like, that's not a joke. The Victorian government actually puts it out. There's a poster for how to go to the toilet. Apparently other cultures do it differently or something, and yeah, people don't realise what they're meant to do. So, you know, I'd question my managers at Accenture and I'd be like, well, you know, you sold me on innovation and this innovative workplace, but you've got a process for absolutely everything. How are we meant to innovate? And they're like, well, the innovation comes through how you follow the process. And I never really understood that concept. And, you know, so I'd been at Accenture for a few months and then a few things happened at the same time. So one of the things was I was always into technology, so I was looking to buy a TV. And, you know, I'd always, you know, shopped around, so I went to, you know, flat screens were really big back then, so, well, they still are now. So I went and looked at all the shops, all the big shops, had a look at the LCDs, and even though I was earning some decent coin, I couldn't afford a TV. So all my phones and all of that stuff I'd been getting from Asia all the time because I'm quite an early adopter of gadgets, so I decided, all right, what am I going to do? So I started emailing all these factories in Asia saying, hi, I'd like to buy 100,000 TVs. Please provide your best price. And my goal was to get them to provide their prices, and then I'll tell them, oh yeah, I'd like a sample, and see who'd sell me a cheap sample, hoping that I'd buy 100,000 TVs. But when all these quotes started coming back and I looked at all the prices, I realized that there's this massive gap in the market, because a TV that you could get for about $1,000 out of Asia landed in Australia was selling for about $3,000 in the stores. And then I researched the technology and saw that a TV is a pretty simple piece of technology. It's a panel, a power board, and a tuner board wrapped in plastic. So I looked into it further and saw that even though there's thousands of panel brands out there and TV brands, there's only 4 companies in the world at that stage that... Sorry, didn't mean to distract you. See, they're even shocked that there's only 4 panel There's only 4 LCD panel manufacturers in the world. So, you know, if you go and buy a Bang & Olufsen TV, it's got a Samsung panel inside it. You go buy a Sony TV, it's got a Sharp panel inside it. You've got Samsung, Sharp, Hitachi, and LG make the majority of big TV panels for the world. So no matter what brand you get, it's got one of those panels in it. So a panel makes up 80% of the price of the TV. That's the core technology in the TV. So I thought, all right, here's this awesome opportunity for an online retail model, because huge gap in the market and the product is perfectly suited to online. The products that are best suited to online retail are where you have maximum value per cubic centimetre, because you want to make delivery of that product from a central location as efficient as possible. So you've got this thin, skinny box with a $1,000 product in it. Perfect. So yeah, I thought, all right, that's pretty cool. And at the same time, at Accenture, I was going through a bit of trouble. So I got put on this project with about 10 other grads, and we had to do data migration from one system to another. And they broke up the 100,000 records we had to migrate, and they gave us 10,000 records each, sat us down on a Monday morning, and they said, you've got till Friday night to do this task. And there's a week's worth of work here. You have to convert the records from this format to this format. And they sent us away and said, have it finished by Friday night. So I quickly looked at the data and noticed a few patterns in it. and I wrote a script that went over all the records and converted them straight away. And at 9:30 I approached my manager and I told her, I was like, you know, I've finished this task. We don't need a whole week to do this task. The task is done. I found an easier way to do it. Would you like me to show all the other grads how to do it properly? And she goes to me, there's no chance you could have finished this task. Go back to your desk, do it properly, have a proper look at the task. And I was like, no, I have done it properly. I have looked at it. I found an easier way to do it. We don't have to spend a whole week doing it. She refused to even look at my work and sent me back to my desk and said, you know, finish it by the end of the week. You couldn't have done it properly. And that was quite demoralizing, considering that they were preaching all the innovation and stuff. And you know, at that stage I thought, oh, no big deal. I was doing a few things on eBay here and there, so I thought 4.5 days on eBay, sweet. In hindsight, and knowing how a few services companies operate, I can probably see where she was coming from, because she thought, oh no, if he's worked out a quicker way to do it, that's 10 grads we don't get to charge out at $200 an hour anymore. And she was probably thinking, bottom line revenue, how do we milk this client for all they've got? I had a friend who was a lawyer, and I'd speak to him sometimes and I'd want to catch up for lunch in the city, and he's like, oh, I'm just delivering something to another office. And I'd be like, really? You did 5 years of uni to deliver stuff in the city? Why don't you use, like, there's so many courier companies? And he'd be like, yeah, but you can't charge a courier at $200 an hour. So, you know, that gave me a bit of insight into how services companies work. And yeah, so that happened at Accenture. It was a bit demoralizing. I saw the opportunity in the TV market, and I thought, all right, I'm going to start this business. And so I thought, all right, sweet, you know, let's get things started. I spoke to my family and friends. Everyone said I was crazy. People were like, as if anyone's going to buy TVs online. My mum started crying and goes, you've got this awesome education and a great job, and now you're going to be a TV salesman. And you know, everyone told me not to quit my job and to, you know, keep doing what I'm doing and not bother with this business. But I thought, you know, I think the opportunity is awesome. I've got to give it a crack. But I wanted to be a bit risk averse as usual. So I came to my manager at Accenture on that Wednesday, and I said to her, I was like, hi, look, I'm going through a few personal issues at the moment, so can I have 1 year leave without pay? And she looked at me and she was like, no, you can't. You know, you've only been here 6 months. We don't do 1 year leave without pay and all of that. And I was like, well, in that case, I have no option but to quit. And I told her that I know I'm obligated to give 28 days notice under my agreement. I've never broken an agreement in my life. I'm happy to give the 28 days notice and work for 28 days, hand over whatever's necessary. But if she wouldn't mind it being less than 28 days, I would really appreciate it. And she goes to me straight away, she's like, oh, look, don't worry about it, just finish up today. And I was like, oh, wow, I was really appreciated here. That's lovely. And yeah, so I came home that day. That was a Wednesday, and by Sunday, Kogan was up and running. So not too much sleep, lots of Red Bulls, and got a website ready, listed the TVs, and, you know, everything was ready to go. Signed up for a 1300 number. It was all looking very professional. And everything's ready to go, except I had a few problems. So major problem was I had absolutely no money at this stage, and you know, you can't sell stuff that you don't have, sort of. So luckily at that time, my mum was furniture shopping, and she knew that I knew how to hustle a bit and negotiate prices. So she goes to me, can you come with me to buy a dining room table and try get the price down a bit for me? I was like, sure. I walk into a furniture store with my mum. She finds a dining room table that she likes. I play a few games with the salesman and get her a better price. And then we walk up to the counter, and, you know, the guy was like, oh, Miss Kogan, you know, you've got a beautiful table, congratulations. It'll be delivered in about a couple of months. And then my mum paid for it, and we walked out of the store. And I was like, Mum, you just paid in full for something that you're not going to get for a couple of months. And she goes to me, she's like, yeah, that's just how it works. And I thought, all right, if that's just how it works, that's just how it works. So I went back to the website and everything that I built, and I knew that TVs take about 25 days to manufacture, 15 days shipping time, 5-day lag time. So I updated all the listings and said, we'll be delivered in 45 days. And I was hoping that people would be able to compare specs side by side and see that they're getting an awesome deal, and they'd be happy to wait 45 days. So I started a few AdWords campaigns, and all of a sudden I'm selling TVs. People are coming to the site and purchasing these TVs to be delivered in 45 days. I thought, sweet, concept is working. I started listing TVs on eBay as well. And, you know, I was doing some stuff on eBay where I was listing the TVs for 1 cent, no reserve auctions, and I could control exactly how many I sell. So they were 1 cent, no reserve, 1-day listings. And people were like, oh, what happens if a TV sells for 5 cents? And I'd be like, well, does that mean no one's willing to bid 6 cents? In a natural market like eBay with lots of demand, you're always going to get the right natural market price. And what people don't realize is that, you know, you go to a house auction and you've got an auction starting at 400 grand and then it gets bid up to 573 grand. If that auction had started at $1, it'd still get bid up to 573 grand. All you need is a natural market and at least 2 people who want a product. But by starting these TVs at 1 cent, no reserve, each auction was getting thousands of views. It was getting hundreds of watches, so many bids. The whole online community was talking about it, and I was fetching decent prices for them because people wanted TVs, and their next best option was to walk into a store and pay $3,000. So we were the only place in Australia at the time where you could buy a TV online. So everything was working really well, selling TVs on the website, selling TVs on eBay, everything's going sweet. For China, I needed to pay a 20% deposit to get the order started. So I built up a bit of money in the bank account, and I emailed the factory that I had chosen to work with, and I said, you know, hi, thank you very much for providing your quote. I've chosen to work with you, but I'm not going to order 100,000 TVs. I want to do a trial order of 80 TVs. And they laughed at me. China is all about mass production. China is all about, you know, running production lines, producing tens of thousands of units. They were not interested in an order of 80 TVs. So they declined my order, explained to me that, you know, it's not even worth setting up a production line for this because a production line takes a day to set up and 80 TVs would take a few minutes to manufacture. So, you know, it's not commercially viable for them. So I was like, shit, I've got this money for these TVs and the factory doesn't want to work with me and I don't have a job anymore. What do I do? So business to me is all about creating a win-win situation. So I thought, how can I turn this into a win-win scenario for this factory? And, you know, thought about it, and then the idea hit me. Now, I don't know if any of you have dealt with China or not, but you can have these multi-billion-dollar organizations and all of their documentation and marketing is in Chinglish. So I thought, all right, I'll add some value. I'll turn this into a win-win. I'll redo all of it for them. So their user manuals didn't make sense. The pictures were not annotated. They were lacking diagrams. Their marketing material had images all over the place. Nothing was aligned. You know, it didn't look like a quality Western-style Accenture document. The pricing spreadsheets, like they would center the dollar amount, and I hate that. I hate people who center the wrong shit in Excel spreadsheets. So, you know, and it used like 12 different fonts and all of that. So I right-aligned their numbers, I bolded the headings, I put the borders in the right places, made everything look really pretty. And I sent it back to the factory. And I said, look, there's no commercial value for you in producing 80 TVs for me. But I want to make this a win-win relationship and I can add commercial value in other ways. Please see attached some work that I have done for you. And they replied a few hours later saying, "Thank you so much, Mr. Kogan, we accept your order." And they gave me an even better price than they had previously quoted. So, you know, smooth sailing. We're back on track, and they were more than happy to make the 80 TVs, and I was going to make even more money out of them because they lowered their price, so everything was awesome. Now, they emailed me about a week later saying, "Thank you so much for what you did. We just won a massive customer in the US," because they said we were by far the most professional factory that they had encountered. So, managed to create a win-win scenario out of it, and, you know, everyone's happy in a win-win. So, you know, things were progressing well, and everything's going to plan, selling TVs through the website, selling TVs through eBay, and I was going to sell out of the whole container just in time to make the balance payment to China, and would have had enough money in the bank to pay the balance as well. So everything's going fine until about a week and a half prior to the balance payment being due to China. I receive a couple of nasty emails. One of them is from eBay. "Dear Mr. Kogan, we have noticed some irregular selling activity on your account. You have sold a high volume of products that you're yet to receive feedback for. We have suspended your account and are happy to reopen it once you receive feedback for these items." And I thought, shit, there's one of my sales avenues gone, because, you know, I was relying on the eBay sales to sell out of all the TVs in time. And then, you know, I thought, oh, well, you know, not that bad. I can still keep selling them through the website. And then I got an even nastier email from PayPal, which is an eBay company. And they pretty much said the same thing, you know, regular selling activity, blah, 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 blah. But their email ended with, "We have suspended the funds in your account. We will release the funds once people leave feedback for these products." And I was like, shit, why didn't I just transfer the funds out of PayPal yesterday? So now I had all this money locked up in PayPal, and one of my main sales avenues shut down, and a balance payment due to China in a week and a half. So I was up shit creek without a paddle. And I had to work out, well, what am I going to do? So, you know, luckily this was in 2006. And 2006 was a time when banks were happy to give credit cards to every man and his dog. So I started applying for credit cards. And, you know, I set my Firefox auto form filler thing with all the details. And I had the art down to a T, you know. I could apply for a credit card in under a minute. And so applied for hundreds of credit cards, and about 4 or 5 days later, an unemployed 23-year-old received over $50,000 worth of credit cards in the mail. I thought, sweet, that was easy. I was still a little bit short. I needed like 10 or 15 grand more, so I contacted a few friends and was like, "Guys, I'm fucked. Can you please help me? I really need some cash. You can easily get credit cards," and sent them the links to all the sites where I got credit cards from. And they applied for it, and they very quickly got some credit cards as well. So I was like, sweet, just in time. So got all the credit cards together, went into their underwriting institutions, you know, all of them link back to a Westpac or a CBA or one of them, and took full cash advances on every single credit card. Took out all the full cash advances and made the balance payment to China for the production of the TVs. Now, you know, things seem back on track, but the problem now is my balls are on the line. So I owe heaps of banks money, I owe heaps of friends money, I owe heaps of customers TVs. So I need to make sure that everything goes fine. So I jump on a flight and fly over to China. I get to the factory and I hand test every single one of the TVs myself, making sure every single function works, and, you know, to ensure the quality of the order. Everything's fine, then watch the container get loaded in front of me. Make sure the right number of TVs are loaded and watch the container get sealed. Then I paid a taxi driver to follow the container to the shipping yard. Now, I've got no idea what I was going to do if the container came under attack, but I think I'd seen one too many Hollywood movies where dudes with AKs jump out and start firing and, you know, hold up a shipment of something. But I had no ninja stars, nothing. So I've got no idea what I was going to do, but it gave me a bit of peace of mind seeing that container arrive at the shipping yard. So the container arrived at the shipping yard. Then, you know, I went back to the airport, flew back to Australia. A week or so later, or a couple of weeks later, the container arrives in Australia, crack it open at the warehouse, send the TVs to all of the customers. The customers all leave positive feedback on eBay. eBay reopens the account. PayPal releases all the funds. I pay back all of the credit cards. I pay back all of my friends and made a bit of profit throughout the whole thing as well. So thought, sweet. And then the next order, because I'd made a bit of profit and had a bit of capital to start off with, didn't have to be a 45-day pre-sale. It was a 30-day pre-sale. The order after that wasn't a 30-day pre-sale, it was a 15-day pre-sale. The order after that, we started having stock in the warehouse. Now we've got about 6 distribution facilities all over the world. We've got a 10,000 square metre warehouse out in Laverton, chock-a-block full of TVs, about 200 orders or containers on the water at any given time, and we've had 0 external funding in the business to date. So things have gone all right. I want to talk about some business tips now and things I've learned along the way. So, well, before I do that, I'll be checking Twitter on my phone. So if anyone's got questions to ask, feel free to tweet at Ruslan Kogan, and you know, after this or even throughout it, I'll keep an eye on my phone and I'll be sure to answer your questions. So in terms of business advice and things learned along the way, the single most important tip is always look for win-win scenarios. And that's probably not even a bit of business advice, it's just good advice in life in general. What's not sustainable cannot be sustained, so you need to create win-win scenarios in every relationship. Now, you saw or you heard with the story how if I couldn't have found a win-win scenario to get the factory to manufacture the first order, Kogan may have never started. But, you know, win-win scenarios can occur every day in all different sorts of situations. For instance, I went to Monash out in Clayton, and you know, they had a massive car park, but even more students. And the sort of student I was, you know, rock up about 5 minutes before a lecture, get to the car park, try find a parking spot. Every now and then I'd see a parking spot become available a few rows away. I'd hoon to get there. By the time I got there, someone else took that parking spot, circled around like a headless chook for a few more times. And then I'd look at my watch and I'd be like, shit, it's 15 past the hour. I'm too late anyway, and I'd drive home. Until I realised that it's really easy to get parking spots here by creating a win-win scenario. So I'd pull up to the entrance of the car park, see people walking to their car, and then I'd be like, well, you know, roll the window down and go, excuse me, would you like a lift to your car? And everyone's always like, sure. So I'm like, hop in. They jump in, I drive them to their car, they get out, take their car out, I take their spot, bingo. Saves them a couple of 100 metres of walking, saves me 20 minutes of driving around like a headless chook. So everyone's a winner, win-win scenario. And it's, you know, really, really important to look for this in business, to always know what motivates someone in a transaction, to know what's in it for them, why are they doing this. If you can't see a win-win, walk away. I'm sometimes in Asia and you know, they'll be negotiating a price with me and then they're like, Mr. Kogan, we're selling to you below cost. And, you know, they're like, please accept our offer below cost. So whenever they say that, I pack up my shit and leave. And they get really shocked. They're like, why won't you buy from us below cost? And I'm like, well, you're either a liar or really stupid. You know, you're either lying to me and I don't want to work with liars, or you're really stupid and you're selling shit below cost and you're not going to be around in a couple of weeks. And we're after long-term relationships. So always look for a win-win in every business and even personal relationship that you have. The other bit of advice is to always think outside the box. Now, it's important in a business to, well, every business, it comes down to one core factor, and that's what's your competitive advantage. If you're not doing stuff different to others, you have no competitive advantage. If you've got no competitive advantage, you've got no reason for people to transact with you. So you can never rest on your laurels. You've got to always think outside the box and how to innovate and do stuff differently to others that will give you that competitive advantage. So, for instance, like in Asia, there'd be every man and his dog claims to have a factory. Now, with us, with TVs and the scale on which we're dealing with at the moment, there's only probably realistically 5 to 10 factories that could do our volume. Now, if you look online or if you look at factory lists or if you go to trade shows, there'll be 10,000 companies claiming to be a massive TV factory. What is really going on there is every factory works with about 10 trade companies. Each of the trade companies or each of the trading companies will have about 100 agents working for them. Each agent will rebrand and claim to have their own factory. So when I used to come to Asia, it's really important to deal directly with the factory rather than a middleman, because every middleman wants a margin, and the more middlemen you have, the less competitive you are. So I'd run a few small checks to see if I'm working directly with the actual factory. Like, there's some easy checks. For instance, when someone comes and picks you up from your hotel, they give you a business card. They take you to their factory, compare the writing on their business card to the factory name on the factory building. Now, I can't read Chinese, but I can tell if 2 squiggles look the same. So you know, easy check number 1. Number 2, you know, feel free to ask someone on the production line and say, you know, oh, do you know this person that's giving you a tour? And if they look at you and shake their head, well, you've got a bit of a conundrum, because they either didn't understand you or no, they don't know them. But if they say yes, then you know that, you know, they do know that person. But the one thinking outside the box in that scenario that works all the time is a simple question. You go, excuse me, mate, can you open that door for me, please? And if he has to stand there and make 5 phone calls and wait for 20 minutes for someone to come down and open that door for them, you know that that guy's not the owner of the factory. So by thinking outside the box and market dynamics, you can create some competitive advantages for yourself. Another one I remember was once I was in a negotiation with a big Chinese factory, and they had 5 of their big bosses in the boardroom and me on the other side of the boardroom table. I'm sitting there in jeans and a t-shirt. They're all suited up, looking all serious, and the discussion starts. Now, only one of them could speak English, so I'd speak English to him, and then he'd translate to the others. They'd chat amongst themselves. He'd relay the message back to me. And we were discussing some serious stuff like quality control and pricing. Now, halfway through the meeting, I'd say something to him, he'd have a chat to them, and then they're all like, ha 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 ha, laughing amongst themselves. And it made me feel really uncomfortable. I was like, do I have shit on my face? Is there something on my t-shirt? Like, what are they laughing at? And I thought it'd be so awesome having a translator here with me so that, you know, I'd know what they're laughing at. But then I thought, well, if I had a translator here with me, they probably wouldn't be saying whatever they're saying right now. And then I thought, oh, awesome. So I pulled out my phone and I looked at a voice record, put it back down on the table and recorded the meeting. And left that meeting, came back to my hotel room, uploaded the MP3 to the internet, went onto those Elance websites, and you know, within a few hours someone had translated it and given me a transcript of the whole conversation. So I have a read of it. It's got their pricing strategy, what their cost price is, what price they can do, what they can't do, how they're trying to milk me for a higher price, what they're going to say, how they're going to act, all of this sort of stuff. Bottom line, I ended up getting that order for a really good price. So, you know, you can think outside the box in a lot of scenarios, and, and create that bit of competitive advantage. But also never rest on your laurels. I've seen a lot of businesses become successful and they're like, oh, all right, what we're doing right now is shit hot, we don't need to do anything else. Kodak, for instance. They even invented a lot of the patents related to digital photography, but they were like, hang on a second, so we've got 80% market share of all the film in the world. We've got 90% market share of all the paper that photos get printed on. We own the patents to digital photography, but we don't care about digital photography. Why would we? Look at how much money we're making. And if you don't innovate, if you don't keep your business moving forward and keep up with market trends, you die. And that's exactly what happened to Kodak. They're now extinct. And Charles Darwin, when he spoke about evolution in general, is really relevant to evolution in business when he said that it's not the strongest of species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. And that is really important in business, to not do best practice, but do next practice. Think about how can you innovate, how can you keep things moving forward, and what's the next best thing. So yeah, never rest on your laurels. Another important bit of advice is to be accountable. Now, through the recruitment process at Kogan, everyone gets told that there will never, ever, ever be formal training. And it causes a lot of people to walk out of the interview and go home, and we're happy to see those people's backs. And the reason that we have this policy is because we want everyone to be accountable. We think that formal training is for people who want to look like they're learning. So, like, Mum, look, I got a certificate. Half the time people go on formal training courses to get a couple of days off work or add it to their resume, whatever. So formal training is for people who want to look like they're learning. Google is for people who actually want to learn. There is not a single thing you can't Google these days and work out how to solve. And that's really important. We want everyone to not be like, oh, I've got to wait for this training course and then I can do that bit of work. No, Google it and off you go. By the time someone's put a training course together for any topic in the world, it's old information. And we want everyone to be accountable for every bit of work they do. And by teaching our staff this, everyone wants to swim upstream, everyone challenges the status quo, and not a single member in this nearly 7 years of Kogan has ever come to me and said, oh, I can't work this out, I can't solve it, there's no answer. Never had that once. We've got ex-accountants doing our digital marketing, because digital marketing is all about numbers and statistics and click-through rates and analytics and all of that sort of stuff. So they were never taught digital marketing. You do a few Google searches and you work it out. We've got lawyers running our IT infrastructure. We've got a lot of people who were entering into projects they've never worked on before, and they work it all out through Google. So don't use an excuse that, oh yeah, work hasn't sent me on that training course yet, or I haven't done that training course yet, that's why I can't do this bit of work. There is no one else in the world responsible for your own education. You've got to be accountable, and you're responsible for your own knowledge. And that policy is working quite fine for us at Kogan, but I've noticed the room's gone a bit silent, so if I offended anyone, bad luck. So another bit of advice, particularly to people working in the online space at the moment, is the importance of social proof. Now, online can be a lonely place. So, you visit a website, you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to interact with these guys. Am I the only one that's about to get screwed? Or never heard of them, I'm scared. So a website is a lonely place. It's not like a shopping centre where you see lots of people in that shop and you get in the back of your head that assurance that everything's going to be okay because look at how many other people are shopping here. Now, there's good ways to transfer all of that online, and it's really, really important because I'll give a real life example of why it's important. So I fly Melbourne to Sydney, very often, and the flight that I catch, Sydney to Melbourne, usually gets into Gate 3 at Tullamarine. Now, from Gate 3, you walk off the plane, you turn left, and then you're at baggage claim, and off you go. Now, so this particular day, the flight lands, and as we're about to get off the plane, I get a phone call. And I'm in, la la land, thinking about the phone call and the discussion. And I walk off the plane, first to get off the plane, and I turn left. And I'm walking, and finish the phone call, put my phone in my pocket, and I look up, and I'm like, shit, I was at gate 12. So the plane had got into a different gate, and I walked in the wrong direction. So I chuck a U-turn, and I go to walk back to baggage claim, and what do I see? 200 people that followed me off the flight. Not a single person on that flight wanted to use their own brain and make a decision about where to turn when they walked off the flight. Shocking, isn't it? Now, another example is a few years ago imported a few containers of remote control helicopters that I saw over in Asia, and I thought, oh, this product's going to be so awesome leading into Christmas. So I bring in a few containers of remote control helicopters. I go to a popular shopping centre. I rent some prime real estate for the month leading into Christmas, one of those stalls in the middle, so not an actual shop, but like those things in the walkways. I rent one of them, and I think this is going to be awesome. Set up the stall, start trading on day one. No one cares about my remote control helicopters. And I was like, crap. So, sold, 5, 10 throughout the day. And I've got literally containers, like thousands of them to sell. And I'm like, shit, I'm gonna be stuck with about 45 years worth of Christmas gifts here. And so no one's buying them. I'm a week into my 1 month lease. My cousin calls me. His school was nearby. He was 14 years old. Calls me. He's like, Ross, I heard you got remote control helicopters. I was like, yeah. And he's like, can I come down and play with them at lunchtime? I was like, sure, mate, come down. And my cousin rocks up with a few of his mates, and they start playing with the remote control helicopters. All of a sudden, stampede of people around the stall. Bam, 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 doing sales left, right, and centre. It's going absolutely nuts. My cousin's there for about half an hour, then him and his mates go back to school, and all of a sudden, the stall's dead again. And I thought, all right, interesting. So I call my cousin up. I'm like, mate, I'll give you $50 a day to bring all your mates down and play with the remote control helicopters. And he's like, yeah, awesome. So he starts bringing his mates down. They start wagging a few periods of class here and there. And while they're standing there playing with the remote control helicopters, I'm doing 20 transactions a minute. It's going absolutely crazy. And I end up selling out of all of the helicopters with a week to go on my lease. So December 17th to 24th, the stall was empty. I went from not being able to sell out of them to having absolutely nothing to sell. Just because of that social proof. People just want to do what other people are doing. It explains the white headphones you see on the train in the morning. Everyone just wants the white headphones. They've got them connected to Android devices in their pocket. But you go to a shopping centre, and it's true, you'll see a demonstration of a piece of carpet being cleaned. All of a sudden there's people fighting over each other, having a look, because everyone wants a front row seat to a piece of carpet being cleaned. People just want what other people are doing, and that's why social proof is really important in the online world. Yeah, we've got questions? All right, I've got about 5 more minutes and then questions. All right, so yeah, social proof is really important. You can do it through lots and lots of tools that you don't get to hear about now. Just to close things off, we live in an interesting business environment at the moment. So we live in a world where profit is seen as evil. We if you look at our media, if you look at our, movies, the businessman is the evil fat guy smoking a cigar in the penthouse of the pharmaceutical company, thinking about or scheming how to profit off the world. Profit is seen as evil. Our miners are finally making a bit of money, so we've got to tax them, and it's all ours, and they're our resources. And no one's raised the question that these things have no value when they're in the ground. It's the actual processes and everything involved to get them out of the ground. But all of a sudden, all this negative media about business in general. Nobody acknowledges entrepreneurship or businessmen in the media. Nobody out there says, that for every single product that we interact with on a daily basis, whether it be product or service, there's a businessman or businesswoman or entrepreneur out there losing sleep thinking, how do I make it better? Whether it be this nightclub that we're in, or this light globe, or the person who invented that camera, or the car that you all drove in the morning, or the train, or the people who designed the train you caught, or the tram, or the building that you're in, or the architect who made this building, or any brand of alcohol you see on the shelf there, or this microphone, or absolutely anything. When you walk into the chemist, 99% of the things that make you feel better were created by private enterprise. Nobody says, well, yeah, there's a businessman or entrepreneur behind that thinking, how do I make it better? Losing sleep, trying to make it more efficient, trying to drive costs down, trying to improve our world. Do not be ashamed of the pursuit of profit. It's thanks to the pursuit of profit that Henry Ford made cars affordable for everyone. It's thanks to the pursuit of profit that Richard Branson made flights more affordable for everyone. It's thanks to the pursuit of profit that the late and great Kerry Packer gave us one-day cricket. It's thanks to the pursuit of profit by Steve Jobs that my mum is able to send an SMS message for the first time ever. She had a Nokia for 6 years. I bought her an iPhone, and I was like, Mum, do you like it? She's like, yeah, it's awesome. I can send text messages. So, entrepreneurship and the pursuit of profit drives a lot of the things that make our world a better place. So never, ever be ashamed of that. And in closing, I want to share some of the best business advice I've ever received. And it goes in line with the fact that, of what I said before, that an entrepreneur isn't an inventor and an athlete in one. So lots of people come to me all the time with business ideas. I try and hear out as many as I can. 90% of the ideas are shit. Which, like, just being honest with you, I'm not going to make it up, but yeah, 90% of the ideas are crap. People are like, oh, I've got this awesome idea for a group buying site for left-handed golfers. It's like, no. Or I'm going to make a social network that's for uni students. Like, no. So I evaluate the ideas on a few things. One is, what is your competitive advantage? What's your value add to the consumer? Does everyone else say you're crazy? If your business has those three key things, it's going to be a successful business. And the last one, the craziness, is important because you're challenging the status quo enough to be different. Now, so I'd speak to a few people. 10% of them have a really good idea. I see them 6 months down the track, and I'll be like, hey, how's business going? And they'll look at me and they'll be like, oh, what business? I'm like, you told me a business and it had a competitive advantage, value add to consumer, and it challenges the status quo. How's that business going? And, they're just shocked, like no one ever does anything. So everyone can talk the talk, but not many people walk the walk. So for the athlete part of being a businessman or an entrepreneur, Nike has been printing the best business advice ever on t-shirts for years. Just do it. Thank you.